Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 5. And the block we are going to talk about today is the good mother. So, in keeping with the conditionings and programs that we've picked up from our culture, the third block we're going to discuss is the good mother. So, one of the ways our feminine energy can be blocked or our feminine river energy choked is through the expectation of what it means to be a good mother. Whether you are a physical mother, a godmother, a caretaker, or caregiver, or a teacher of some sort, we've all been programmed to know and believe what a good mother is, at least here in the United States. We know what a good mother looks like. She is self-sacrificing at all costs. Her identity is enmeshed with those she cares for, so their happiness is her happiness, their sadness, her sadness, their hurt, her hurt. She ultimately cannot feel like a good mother or good enough unless those in her care are the epitome of perfection, whatever that might mean for her. What happens when we take on this archetype is that it causes enmeshment and codependence, meaning that our lives and livelihood become all about the feelings and life progress of the other. And when we don't meet this expectation, or the ones we care for don't meet this expectation, it sets us up for failure and disappointment. This can manifest not only in our mothering of others, but in how we mother or care for ourselves. This block can show up whether or not we have children, because all women have the mothering essence. We all have the ability to nurture another, an idea, or ourselves. The rub comes when our children or those we care for aren't happy, aren't progressing in life, aren't doing what we want them to do. This then causes us severe distress. We try everything in our power to make this person happy again, including sacrificing our own health and well-being. When we are obsessed with making sure another is happy, we don't have the time or capacity to ensure our own happiness, health, and well-being. Not to mention, we mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually exhaust ourselves, meaning we then have to keep giving from an empty cup. I'm not saying that wanting another, especially a child or younger person, to be happy is wrong or bad. Quite the opposite. It shows the depth of our love for them. But being obsessed with making sure another is happy often leads to more dysfunction within that and our other relationships. An important note is that this often happens unconsciously, especially if we experience this enmeshment from our own caregivers. Here is my story. My parents separated when I was 12. I actually vividly remember the day and the night that my dad actually left. My parents had always argued as long as I can remember, and I do remember wanting them to get divorced just for some peace in the house that we lived in. Anyway, I remember the day that my dad packed his things in our family SUV and left and never returned to living with us again. My mom wasn't home at the time, so I was left to watch my siblings until she returned. My mother was absolutely despondent, understandably so, when she came home and realized what had happened, and remained emotionally unavailable to me and my siblings for a number of years, especially as they started the divorce proceedings when I was 15, so 3 years later. And being the good and responsible daughter and sister I found myself mothering my own mother, my siblings, throughout this time period in my teenage years. I started sleeping in my mother's bed for the next 2 years or so because I was concerned for her mental health. In reality, I was scared that she may attempt to take her own life, and I was hoping that the presence in her bed would prevent that from happening. I remember both of my parents talking to me about what was going on in divorce proceedings. I knew every court date. I knew what each parent was saying. I knew what the lawyers were saying and were attempting to do. I remember taking over some of the responsibilities of the house when I was old enough to drive and got my license. So I did grocery shopping, errand running, sometimes taking my siblings to soccer practice and taking them to church for Bible study on Wednesdays. I made sure that we kept functioning as a household as my mom continued to work through her feelings. All the while, also keeping up my grades in school and making sure no one at school or at church had any reason to suspect that something was going on at home. How did this affect me later? I began to mother any and everyone who needed or wanted it. I mothered grown adults, such as my sister, whom I spoke about yesterday. I mothered friends and my romantic partners, a habit I'm still undoing and working through to this very day. I also believe that this over-mothering resulted in fertility issues. I suffered from irregular and missing periods and the manifestations that come from that, such as acne, unsteady hormones, depression. Our mothering is tied to our womb areas, since the ability to mother energetically and biologically comes from that space. Whether or not we choose to use that space for that purpose, or whether or not that space is still there, even women who have had their wombs removed for one reason or another still have the essence of their womb there in that space. I was literally devoting my mothering energy to all the wrong people, and it took that energy away from my body, which needed it for its own hormonal, emotional, and spiritual balance. I will add here that if you are experiencing any sort of fertility issues, I invite you to explore your own mothering experiences, whether from your own mother or how you mother yourself or any children that you have, to see if there's something that might be worth looking into. The takeaway here that I would like to emphasize is that mothering others, whether you have dependents or you are a caregiver in another aspect, or mothering those that you shouldn't, such as grown adults, ultimately depletes your own feminine energy and essence. You don't have anything left to mother yourself, and you continue to deplete your resources, which makes you unavailable to mother anyone. This doesn't serve those that actually need your mothering, such as any dependents you might have, or it doesn't serve you. You deserve all the love and the care that you so willingly and lovingly give to others. It's important that you do this for yourself first so that you can give from an abundance of this internal love and not from a scarcity of it. Journal prompt. Part 1. How has mothering others shown up in your life? Part 2. What does the perfect mother look and feel like to you? How can you apply some of that to how you mother yourself? And what is one thing you can do today as an act of mothering yourself? Looking forward to hearing any insights that you come up with. Talk to you soon.